Let's bring in trial attorney Richard Roth to talk about this as well. Richard, thank you for being with us.
Good morning. I'm in New York, so it's a little colder.
Yeah, but you're inside, so that helps. That helps as opposed
to
being outside. That's true. Tell me, first and foremost, in your opinion, what was different this time around in this second trial that convicted Jason Young, in your opinion?
The biggest difference, which is a monumental difference, is that unlike the first trial, the prosecutors had the defense playbook. The way it normally runs down is that the prosecutors don't get the defendants, they don't find out exactly what the defense is going to be and what the defendants are going to do in the case. The prosecutor, on the other hand, has to give the defense everything. So what happened here was that the defense, after the first trial, revealed all of their facts. They revealed the testimony of the defendant. So in between the first trial and the second trial, the prosecutor got the defense's playbook. They actually had the time and the opportunity to run down, to go through every single bit of evidence, piece of testimony that the defense put on the stand, which gave them a far superior advantage than they had in the first trial. So, for example, the inconsistencies in the defendant, in Jason Young, the reason why the detective took the stand and went through the inconsistencies was because he had the testimony. He didn't have that the first time. So that in and of itself is a huge advantage to the prosecutor, essentially getting the playbook from the defense the second time around.
One of the things I thought was interesting and was different this time around as opposed to last time was that the judge in his instructions allowed the jury, he said to the jury, you can consider that Jason Young worked in concert with somebody. In other words, that perhaps if he did this, he didn't do so alone. You can consider that. The thing that was interesting was that option or that theory was never argued in court. Is that odd to you, that it would be an argument that was never brought up in the trial, only in the instructions for deliberation?
It is odd, and what happened was you had before the actual charge is given, the lawyers go to the judge and they argue over what the charge should be. Obviously, the prosecutor got the charge and said that you can consider that he didn't act alone. It's a nice charge to get. I don't know how relevant it is here because you're right, there really was no evidence at all that someone else worked with him. He had an accomplice, someone aided and abetted him. That really was not part of the trial. But the jurors going back there could have said, well, somebody may have helped him. That may have made it easier to travel the distance he traveled. Mm-hmm. So it was a beneficial charge for the prosecution. I don't know if it made a big difference, though.
I got to tell you, people on Facebook and Twitter who've been following this and give me their opinions, which I'm so grateful for because they're so candid, a lot of people believe this was either a murder for hire or some people think that one of his mistresses may have had something to do with that. I guess it's over, but is there any indication that prosecutors would look at anybody else at this point, or is it over?
I don't think so. If you look at the facts, she was clubbed on the head 30 times. There was no robbery. There's no sexual attack by any other man. I think you asked earlier, one of the most poignant areas, piece of evidence that came out. And I think that the gas station attendant, her name was Gracie Calhoun. When she said that at 5 a.m. she had a dispute with Mr. Young, and in fact it was about him paying cash, and she looked at the jury and said, I saw him at 5 a.m. that morning, and Young said he was sleeping. If they look at Miss Calhoun, who has no axe to grind, not involved at all here, that could have been the death nail for Mr. Young, because I think that it's pretty obvious from all the evidence that came down that he actually did travel. The whole hotel change, the change in the camera, the dismantling of the camera, the moving of the camera, the whole going out to smoke a cigar at midnight. It just, none of it, when you put it all together, it just didn't make sense. And the prosecutors had that opportunity now with the defense's testimony. There's no better piece of evidence to rip it apart. And they did a very effective job. They really did.
You brought something up that I wanted to touch on that was different in this second trial than the first. Jason's mother, Pat Young, testified. I believe she testified in both. But this time around, she testified to something she did not bring up in the first trial, and that was she said she found a cigar humidor when she was cleaning out the Young's home after the murder. That was something she didn't mention in June. And you just brought up his alibi, saying he walked out to smoke a cigar.
Right.
Do you think that people saw some of that as a mom, and understandably so, I guess, on some levels, a mom trying to save her son? How believable was she in that regard?
Yeah, it is a mom trying to save her son. Mothers will go the distance for their children, rightfully so. And I don't think, I don't. The fact that she said there was a humidor, maybe it leads you to conclude that he did have cigars and he did smoke cigars. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense for him to be at midnight going out, smoking a cigar, propping up his door with a rock so it doesn't close, and then that 5 a.m. Interaction with that gas station attendant. So it's pretty obvious he was not in the hotel throughout the night, and unfortunately for him, the prosecutors had all that time and all that ability to disprove his alibi.
Okay. Hey, Richard Roth, we're going to take a quick break, but thank you so much for your insights. We have a lot more to talk about,
You're
obviously,
welcome.
with you as we come back.